Over 600,000 people went missing in the year 2018 in America. Of those 600,000 people, over 1/3 are Black, despite Black Americans only making up 13% of America's population. What's more shocking is that only 1/5 of Black missing persons cases will go on to be covered in the media. Today's case is helping spotlight one of those cases that did not get the attention that it deserves. Today's case is the case of Kierra Coles. Hey everyone, welcome back or welcome to my channel if you're new here. Today's video is about a case that I just recently stumbled upon on Web Sleuths, and I was immediately sucked into this case. I've done a lot of research because I really can't stop looking into it. It's one of those cases that really just sucks you in, and I'm surprised that it hasn't been picked up by more big media outlets. But I've decided to cover it on this channel because I'm hoping someone out there has answers. There is footage of her, so I'm hoping that maybe that will lead to answers one day. But let's just get into the regular disclaimer before I start my video. I report on very public information that anyone has access to. All of the opinions in this video are mine or theories unless expressed otherwise, and all of the sources that I used in this video are linked in the description like always. Now let's get into it. In 2018, 26-year-old Kierra Coles was achieving all of the dreams she had set for herself and was seemingly thriving. She had just bought herself a new car, bought herself her own apartment, and gotten a dream job with the United States Postal Service. She was very close with her family and had just let them know that she was expecting a baby very soon, which was a lifelong dream of hers. At the time, she was 3 months pregnant and couldn't wait for her new baby to come. As I said, Kierra was very close to her family, and her mother was no exception to this. And on October 1st, 2018, Kierra called her mom and they had a great conversation. She was seemingly in high spirits and couldn't stop talking about her baby, who was to be expected April 23rd, 2019. Now some background on Kierra's baby's father. So his name was Joshua Simmons, and he was Kierra's boyfriend of 5 years. However, he was married to another woman and also had another girlfriend who was expecting a baby at the same time as Kierra. Now let's get into the day of Kierra's disappearance. On October 2nd, 2018, so that's the day after Kierra had that good conversation with her mother, Kierra called into her work at the United States Postal Service to take the day off. Now, we aren't really given a reason why she wanted to take this day off, and if police do know if she gave a reason to her employers, they haven't released that at this point. However, despite Kierra taking the day off, she's seen leaving her apartment that same day in her US Postal Service uniform, so the uniform that she would have worn to work, which is really strange considering that she had decided to take the day off. So this footage of her leaving her apartment in her uniform is taken from a neighbor's surveillance camera. And this footage is taken on 81st and Vernon Street in the Chatham neighborhood, which is where Kierra lived. However, what the surveillance footage would show next would go on to perplex investigators throughout this case. So once Kierra walks outside of her apartment, she approaches her car and kind of looks at it for a second before turning and then bolting across the street. So once she crosses the street, the surveillance footage no longer can go that far, so it doesn't capture what happens next, unfortunately. From this point, we never see Kierra again, and she's never heard from. 2 days later, so on October 4th, Kierra's mom began to get really concerned when she hadn't heard from her daughter. After all, the two of them were very close and they talked pretty much every day. So when she didn't hear from her for 2 days, she decided to call the police and ask them to conduct a welfare check. So when the police got to her apartment, they noticed things were very strange. So Kierra's keys and her wallet were actually in her apartment, while her purse and her cell phone were in her car. But Kierra was nowhere to be found, and they were really concerned because why would she leave her house without her keys and her wallet? You know, where could she go without those things? There isn't much information given about the investigation as well as in its initial phases. So all we really do know is that they tried to look into her whereabouts and weren't able to find anything. We do know that the US Postal Service was very engaged in her missing persons case and even put up a $49,500 reward for her safe return. As I said, police have remained very tight-lipped in this case and have given out very little information, as well as never named an official suspect. However, recently they have came out and said that they believe Kierra has met foul play, but they won't go into any details. So I'm thinking that they have some evidence that they haven't released that leads to this conclusion. With so little evidence in this case, it's no wonder that there's an abundance of theories when it comes to what happened to Kierra. So the first theory is that this was a completely random crime of opportunity done by someone who doesn't know Kierra. So this theory follows that once Kierra left her apartment that day, someone spotted her from across the street and basically lured her over to their car. From there, they got her to get into their car and then drove away with her and either harmed her or are keeping her somewhere against her will. So evidence for this theory comes from Kierra's dad publicly stating that he believes his daughter was kidnapped and is currently being held somewhere against her will. However, part of me finds this theory kind of hard to believe. Kierra was only 3 months pregnant, and many people do have the motive of kidnapping someone pregnant for their baby, but only people close to Kierra would know she was pregnant at this point, because at 3 months, most women aren't showing. However, this is definitely possible, and there are a lot of creeps out there, unfortunately, and someone might have spotted her and she could have been in the wrong place at the wrong time. A second theory that was actually proposed by Kierra's mom is that she could have been overwhelmed by everything going on in her life and decided to go away on her own will. Now, this theory is kind of supported by the idea that Kierra had experienced a lot of changes in her life recently. She was newly financially responsible for herself, and she had a lot of payments to make, on her car, on her apartment. Plus, a baby is very expensive and stressful, so maybe she just needed some time away. However, she's been missing for 2 years at this point, and I feel like it's very unlikely that if she wanted to go away, it would have been for this long. Also, there's no hospital records or any kind of records anywhere of her baby being born, and this baby would have been born by this point if Kierra is still alive. So this theory kind of loses some credibility due to those things. The third and final theory in this case is that Kierra was harmed by someone she knew that day. Now, this is very possible considering homicide is the #1 cause of death for pregnant women, and we've seen so many cases in the media where someone harms a pregnant woman for the baby. So this could definitely be the case where someone who knew Kierra either wanted her baby or they wanted to get rid of that baby. Now, support for this comes from Kierra's dad going on HLN and publicly naming the father of Kierra's baby as being a person of interest. Now, police have never named him a person of interest, so I kind of have to side with them and, say that he isn't a person of interest because otherwise they would have named him publicly. So I'm thinking at this point that because they haven't said anything, he doesn't have anything to do with this case. I know the first inclination is to look at the romantic partner of the person who went missing, but it's pretty much all speculation at this point and nothing can be confirmed. Unfortunately, that's all I have for you in this case. It's been 2 years and we're nowhere near closer to finding Kierra or her baby. I do find it really interesting that there's no birth certificate or any hospitals have any records of Kierra's baby being born. That really makes me lean to the side of she was either abducted or unfortunately is no longer alive. Because I feel like if she was out there on her own free will, she definitely would have gone to a hospital, if she could have. So I'm really hoping that this family gets answers. Her father has been so public, fighting for justice for his daughter. And so I'm really hoping that they get answers very soon. Kierra is described as having black hair and brown eyes with pierced ears. She has multiple tattoos, which are a heart on her left hand, the phrase Lucky Libra on her back, a jaguar's head on the back of her shoulder, words including the phrase Love My and the design on her chest, and different words on her wrist. Thank you guys so much for listening to Kierra's story today, and be sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more missing persons and true crime cases. Thank you guys so much again. Bye!